ठीक है, तो हम शुरुआत करते हैं बिगिनिंग्स ऑफ ह्यूमन हिस्ट्री. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, have walked the planet for about 3 lakh years. This appears to be a very long time, yet it is only a tiny fraction of the Earth's history. Let us have a quick look at our early history. जो modern humans हैं ना, इन Homo sapiens भी कहते हैं उनको. वो 3 लाख सालों से they have been living on the planet. तो पर अर्थ का जो ये तो बहुत बताया कि बहुत टाइनी फ्रैक्शन है, कि बहुत टाइनी फ्रैक्शन है अर्थ की हिस्ट्री का. अगर हम यहाँ पे देखें पिक्चर में, in the above picture look at some activities of they are early humans in a rock shelter. ठीक है, which one you can recognize, give a brief description for each. afterlife का मतलब कहते हैं a life that begins after death, कि डेथ के बाद जो आपकी लाइफ होगी उसको आफ्टर लाइफ कहते हैं. Life after death that begins after death. Early humans faced many challenges from nature and lived in bands or groups to help each other. They were constantly seeking shelter and food and were mainly hunters and gatherers. They were mainly doing the job of hunters or gatherers ही थे वो mostly. This means that they relied on hunting and collecting edible plants and fruits for their survival. Our early ancestors also had certain beliefs about the natural elements and possibly also some notion of afterlife का वो notion carry करते थे कि एक लाइफ होती है डेथ के बाद भी. These groups lived in temporary camps, rock shelters, or caves and communicated with each other using languages that are now lost. They used fire and started making objects that made their lives easier, like improved stone axes and blades, arrowheads, and other tools. Aspects of their life are visible in rock paintings found in hundreds of caves all over the world. Some of those paintings depict simple figures or a few symbols, others are more detailed and represent scenes with animals or humans. In time, these early humans learned to make simple ornaments such as stone or shell beads, pendants made of animal teeth, and sometimes exchange them with other groups. Next topic is first crops. Over long ages, the Earth's climate has gone through many changes. इतने लंबे समय से अर्थ में क्लाइमेट में बहुत सारे चेंजेस हुए हैं. एट सर्टेन टाइम्स इट वॉज वेरी कोल्ड एंड मच ऑफ द अर्थ वॉज कवर्ड विद आइस. बहुत टाइम तो अर्थ पे मोस्टली आइस ही था. That is called an ice age. As we learn a greater detail in science later when the climate warmed up, जैसे climate गर्म हुआ, this ice partly melted. ये जो ice थी, it started melting and resulting water swelled the existing rivers and eventually drained into the oceans. The last ice age lasted from over 1 lakh years ago to around 12,000 years ago. जो last ice age था वो 1 lakh years से 12,000 years ago तक था. Afterwards, living conditions improved. उसके बाद living conditions that improved for humans in many parts of the world. They started settling down and cultivating cereals and grains. They also domesticated animals such as cattle, goats. इनको भी उन्होंने domesticate करना शुरू किया. With more food available, these communities grow in size and number and often settle down near rivers. River के पास settle down हो गए. This was not only because of the availability of water but also because of soil would be more fertile there. It made the process of growing crops easier. Next पढ़ते हैं हम आगे. Think about it. Both in this earlier picture of a rock shelter and in this one. इस पिक्चर में हम देखिए क्या क्या है. एनिमल्स है जो खाना बना रहे हैं, यहाँ पे हार्वेस्टिंग कर रहे हैं, कुछ वेपन्स बना रहे हैं, कुछ हैमर को यूज़ करके बच्चे यहाँ पे खेल रहे हैं. Both in this earlier picture of a rock shelter and in this one, men and women are given certain roles. हाँ, इनका कुछ रोल है, अपना काम खाना बना रहे हैं, ये कुछ और कर रहे हैं, हार्वेस्टिंग कर रहे हैं ना. While they may appear to be natural, but they are not necessarily correct to do not cover all situations and do not. For instance, in a rock shelter, women may have helped prepare colors for painting the rock or may have done some of the paintings. In both scenes, men may have done some of the cooking or may have helped take care of children. Keeping in mind that we have only limited information, think about such roles and situations discussed in class. As communities grew, so did their social complexity भी उनकी social complexity भी also grow हुई. Leaders और chieftains were responsible for the well-being of the people. जो leaders थे उनका responsibility क्या थी कि सभी की well-being रहे. And everyone collectively worked towards community's welfare पे उन्होंने काम किया. For example, there was no sense of individual ownership. कोई individual ownership का कोई सेंस नहीं था उस समय. Lands were collectively sowed and harvested. Lands को collectively they used to sow and उसको harvest करते थे. Welfare मतलब हेल्थ, प्रॉस्पेरिटी एंड वेलबींग, इसको हम वेलफेयर कहते हैं. ओके. हेल्थ, प्रॉस्पेरिटी को हम वेलबींग वेलफेयर कहते हैं. नेक्स्ट, फॉर एग्जाम्पल देर वॉज नो सेंस ऑफ इंडिविजुअल ओनरशिप का कोई कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं था और लैंड्स कलेक्टिवली सो करते थे और हार्वेस्ट करते थे. एज टाइम वेंट बाय हैमलेट्स ग्रू इनटू साइजेबल विलेजेस. हैमलेट मतलब अ स्मॉल सेटलमेंट और स्मॉल विलेज को हैमलेट कहते हैं. स्मॉल सेटलमेंट और स्मॉल विलेज को हम हैमलेट कहते हैं. Grew into sizable villages that exchange goods and mostly food exchange करते थे goods को, जैसे food, clothing and tools. Slowly networks of communication and exchange were established among those villages and some of them grew into small towns. New technologies appeared, for example pottery for making pots and other clay objects, and the use of metal, copper first, iron later, which helped make durable tools, objects of daily use and ornaments. We'll see in chapter 6 how the states prepared for the emergence of what is called civilization. For now, it is important to remember that this early progress of humanity had to face many challenges. At some critical times, humanity could have almost disappeared, as some earlier species did. We'll never know those early humans to whose courage and persistence we owe our existence today. Before we move on, we have explored some ways to learn more about our past. हमने अपने past को explore करने का कुछ हमने देखे ways. The concept of a timeline helps us understand the sequence of historical events at different times. There are different ways of measuring time: years, decades, centuries, millennium. हमने देखा years, decades 10 years का, centuries 100 years, millennium 1000 years. Sources of history are many. They help us reconstruct and interpret historical events. We have also had a brief look into the lives of early humans and how human societies grew more